Hello everyone, Curious Corduroy here, and the Capcom Showcase wrapped up today. I'm going to be covering the Resident Evil portion of that showcase, and unfortunately, we kind of have to get the gigantic elephant in the room out of the way first, and that is we unfortunately didn't really get anything new in regards to Resident Evil 4. We did get some screenshots that were released on the Capcom Press website, so if I can get a hold of those, I will throw them in this video so you guys can check them out. They're primarily high-resolution shots of Leon's face and some environmental stuff as well. And then we got some brief glimpses of gameplay where Leon is walking through the really dark, dank forest, making his way to the first house in the village. We see Leon walking and we see him aim his gun, and unfortunately that is it, which is kind of a bummer. I was hoping to see some stuff of Leon in action or even just a cutscene. And then they took the first trailer that came out recently and had a few extended shots towards the end of the trailer of Leon's face. So this trailer in this presentation were mostly just like, this is Leon, this is what he looks like. It was really a Leon face showcase more than anything. So Leon, he's very much the character model from RE2, except older and a little bit more war-torn, so he's definitely seen some shit. And unfortunately, that's all we got. So with the game releasing next year in March, I would expect them to have more information to trickle out throughout this year, especially since Capcom seems to be on their shit when it comes to Resident Evil. They release a trailer that has a release date and they stick to it usually. So unfortunately, we didn't get anything major, but we got some small little trinkets of stuff. The showcase on the Resident Evil side was mostly dedicated to Resident Evil Village and its DLC, which was announced last year. So the DLC is going to be called Shadows of Rose, which is focusing on Ethan's daughter. It's 16 years after the events of Resident Evil Village, so we're probably going to see an older Chris Redfield who's probably not going to really age much at all. He's probably going to be super jacked at this point, probably the size of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, so I expect him to be massive. And it looks like the main villain in this DLC is actually going to be the Duke, which is kind of surprising because, spoiler alert, if you played Village, the Duke is actually kind of seemingly a good guy. He helps Ethan out towards the end of the game, pretty much saves his life, offers you weapons in exchange for, gold and trinkets and stuff here and there. So we see a shot in the trailer of him summoning these weird looking zombies out of the ground, and it looks like he's gonna be the villain. They also mentioned a character by the name of Michael, who seems to be some sort of spirit who is kind of guiding Rose and giving her warnings, basically to get out of this place. There's nothing good here. And one of the biggest things is that the DLC will be entirely in third person, which leads to the announcement that they're going to be releasing the Resident Evil Village third person mode. So you can go back and play through the entirety of Village now in third person over the shoulder. Now, I do not hate first person shooters, but if I'm playing Resident Evil, honestly, I much prefer it to be over the shoulder third person. So this is actually kind of incentive to go back and play through Village again and experience it in a much different way, in a way that in my opinion is going to be much more enjoyable. They did, however, announce new Mercenaries content, which I didn't play much of the Mercenaries in Village because I didn't really like it. I think the best Mercenaries mode was probably in Resident Evil 5. That mode was just perfect. I think one of the reasons I didn't do the Mercs mode a lot in Village is because it was first person and it was pretty much only Ethan if I remember correctly. However, they announced that there's going to be new characters you can play as in Mercenaries. You can play as Chris, you can play as Heisenberg, and you can play as Lady D, all 9 feet of her. So that might actually be incentive to go back and play through Mercenaries again now that you can play as characters that are probably going to be way more fun than Ethan was. No offense to Ethan, but they're going to be the new characters as well as new stages in that third person mode. All of this will be included in the Village Gold Edition, which is going to be coming out on October 28th. And they also threw in at the last minute REverse, or Reverse, depending on your level of literacy. That will be launching the same day as the Village Gold Edition, which is pretty interesting how they're just kind of throwing it out a year and a half after the main game's release alongside all of the other DLC for the game. So the showcase was super heavy on Village. We're getting that Shadows of Rose DLC, third person mode, new Mercs stuff, which I might actually go back and visit if I can play as Chris or Lady D. I just want to play as Lady D and see what kind of abilities she's got. That's pretty cool. And then they did make quick mention, this was a story that we covered earlier this year, was that the next-gen iterations of Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 2 Remake, and Resident Evil 3 would be receiving those next-gen upgrades, PS5 versions and Xbox Series S and X versions, and that's available today for free. And if you have the PS4 version or a previous Xbox One version, you can upgrade to the next-gen versions for free as well. So there's not going to be any extra charge for any of that stuff. It's going to have higher resolutions, 4K, and ray tracing, as well as 3D audio. So any excuse I can have to go back and replay through Resident Evil 2 Remake, I will take it. The game is amazing, and it's one of those games where I can do a speed run, beat it, and just start up a new speed run automatically without, feeling worn out or tired or sick of what I'm playing. And for the last news today in regards to Resident Evil, PlayStation Plus launched in America here today, and Resident Evil Director's Cut is a part of the Classics game library, which is really cool. I remember covering the list of games a few months ago, and Resident Evil was on there, but I wasn't sure if it was Director's Cut on PS1 or if it was the remake, and it looked like it is Director's Cut. Thankfully, it is the first version of the game that still has the OG soundtrack intact, so it's not the second DualShock version, which had that really goofy, awful, silly remade soundtrack. So I cannot wait to go and play Director's Cut again. It's been well over 10 years since I've gotten to experience that game, so I can't wait to just sit down and just bathe in nostalgia. So that is the video. I am Curious Corduroy. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below about any of this news that we talked about today. What were your thoughts on the showcase? What do you think about this new Village DLC? And are you kind of bummed out that we didn't get any more in regards to Resident Evil 4 Remake? Leave those in the comments below. I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.